huge fan of all things arm wrestling, and want to talk about some of the most basic principles in arm wrestling. And there's no better way to tell this story than to talk about the flop wrist press. And this story tonight is going to focus a lot around big star of arm wrestling, Jerry Cadorette. So let me start this story by saying there's very few people in the world who do the flop wrist press perfectly. And there's even fewer who do the flop wrist at a very high level, but can also arm wrestle in all the styles of arm wrestling. And that's why I've chosen to do this piece on Jerry Cadorette, because Jerry Cadorette is actually a complete arm wrestler, a guy who has been arm wrestling probably 30 years, 35 years, 40 years. I don't know how old is Jerry, but Jerry is the full package. His ace is his flop wrist press. Jerry is an interesting story. So he was retired. Travis Bagent was on top of the world. Probably around this time, the match you're seeing, he was recognized. Travis was probably recognized as, if he wasn't the very best on the planet, he was very close to it. And Jerry came out of retirement and bet a massive amount of money that he was going to beat Travis. Now, this match was, it lost a little bit of credibility just due to, the fouling nature of it. However, there was still a lot of information and truth that came out of this match. And the truth was that it looked like Jerry's flop was the perfect counter to Travis's top roll. So Jerry shocked the world and did what most people thought was impossible. And this became the moment when I, for one, and probably a lot of the other arm wrestlers out there, started to give the flop wrist press a whole lot more credit, because you had a guy now in the number one spot in the world whose ace move was the flop wrist press. The real gift to the flop wrist press is it puts shoulder commitment above all other things. And yet, it takes a special person. Jerry is a special person to be able to pull this off. But like anything, you can train things and you can improve at things. So it was really interesting to see this come out. And further, so you can see more of just the perfect textbook example of runner versus guy who's coming forward. Travis's base style is top roll. Now you can see here that Travis understands, and Travis is a very smart arm wrestler, and he knows that, inside is got to be the key to beating Jerry. But the problem is Travis is just, he is a top roller. He's a very, very instinctive top roller, and the inside threat is just not credible enough to be able to beat Jerry this way. Now, 2016, Travis did beat Jerry in a press, and that was kind of a big, big moment in Travis's career. Even if you do things not even the most optimal way, you can still win just by being far superior to your opponent. So all eyes have been on Jerry Cadorette for a long time. And here you see Ron Bath change things up. You can see Ron Bath's shoulder stayed at least even, and it certainly did not back up, and he hooked. John Brzenk, same tournament that Ron did it. You see John committing to an inside move, not backing away. At the beginning of the match, you can see John's shoulder. On the go, it does not back away. It does not back away. This is one of the keys to defeat the flopper's press, is the shoulder backing away is what gives the avenue for the shoulder position to get secured by the opponent.
Berzink seemingly in control. Cadorette, oh, he bails out. Berzink wins.
Even athletes of smaller size now understood that Jerry Cadorette is tired here, and this is the overalls in a big tournament. You can still see that Zoloev performing the hook technique and not backing his shoulder off was a beautiful counter for the flop wrist press. Now the dimensions in arm wrestling have changed a lot over the years. Different tables, different pads mean different playing fields that you can fight on. So in the modern era, now we have the World Arm Wrestling League. It's given us an extra 2 inches on the back to retreat. And this has very much changed the favor of the fight towards people who drag their elbow to the rear. If you're coming forward, you are now limited. But if you're coming backwards, you have an additional 2 inches. It was this that led me to believe, along with what I felt in my match with Jerry, that I actually did it incorrectly. And here you see Matt Mask. Okay, he tried the first time, standard top roll, pulling his shoulder backwards on the start. And as you can see, that didn't work so well. Next match, you can see him settle in deeper, trying to commit his shoulder more into the match and do more of a standard hook, much the way that I arm wrestled against Jerry. But Matt is not quite as much of a natural hooker, and he couldn't quite get in deep enough to make it stop. Now, this is the interesting situation when they came to the next match, is Matt was able to top roll on a longer surface, right to the very far edge of the pad, further than he would have been able to do on a standard arm wrestling table, which then allowed him to take control and follow in for the press. Now, I believe that this is actually potentially the very best way to beat Jerry Cadorette now, as his hook is actually, in my opinion, stronger than his flop wrist press is. So, better to make his wrist bend back anyways. And if you have the extra room, why not take it? This is not the option back in the standard arm wrestling table. Now, I think that Matt could have won the last match here, but you can see when he starts to transition, to go inside, that's when he actually got his 4th injury of the season and blew his elbow a little bit. I hope you liked that little Jerry Cadorette story. You saw Jerry lose a lot here, but anybody who follows arm wrestling knows that every time that this happens, it's kind of a big deal. Jerry's one of the top guys in the sport, and the technique that he uses is really special. It's not normal, but it's something that everybody can learn from. When you think about arm wrestling fundamentals, we think about a few things. You think about this upwards drive, and that drive that continues on into the closing of the elbow flexion, right? This upwards pull, this keeping this small, right? This is small. This doesn't get opened. This is a fundamental thing in the sport. The next chain you have is your cupping chain, right? This not letting your wrist get bent back by anybody who's trying, being able to keep it inside your body, tucking the match close inside you, so you're coming up and you're cupping down. And the next one is the resistance to somebody trying to cup you. So you do not want to be turned open in such a manner. You want to be able to resist this. So coming up, getting close, cupping in, bringing it closer, resisting somebody opening you up, so bringing you even deeper inside your body. And the next fundamental chain is the supinating, bringing the shoulder forward movement. Okay, these four are what's considered, in my mind still, the fundamental strengths of arm wrestling. But the interesting thing about the Jerry Cadorette story is once you're in this position, once you are here, you have to think once again, which side of the pyramid is dominant? Is the base of the pyramid moving forward more dominant or moving back more dominant? When you're in this position, is it more advantageous to come through the person's hand, or is it more advantageous to further secure your shoulder? Or is the center of the pyramid all that it's about? It's an interesting thing to think about fighting, think about combat, and arm wrestling is a part of that. And when two people fight in our sport, they can both come apart, and then the strap's involved, and then the questions will remain. Both people can come forward at each other, and things are going to fall out of that. But the interesting part is one can move backwards and one can move forwards. Jerry Cadorette, in much of what we've seen, moves forward at all costs. He will give away his cup. He will give away almost all parts of the arm wrestling game just to secure that shoulder coming forward angle. And it's interesting to me to see which style of arm wrestling is going to best suit him. I believe that the WAL pads are at his disadvantage. I believe that on a standard WAF table, Jerry Cadorette's style proves that the shoulder coming forward may in fact be a more dominant fighting style than shoulder coming back. I'm not talking about the rest of the things going on with the hand. I'm just talking about the shoulder. And really, to me, that is like the basis of all war or all conflict. And the person who takes the first step forward is really the initiator. Anyways, it's neat to think about. Jerry Cadorette, thanks for all you do. Much respect. Until, of course, the next time I see you at the table.